What's good, everybody? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show. I am your host, Leon Jones. It's Tuesday, September 6th, 2016. You can also catch me on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday from 12 to 2. That's Blog Talk Radio /411 Talk Zone radio show. Call-in number is 215-383-5785. If you have a topic that you would like for me to discuss on Blog Talk Radio or my YouTube channel, feel free to email me at lej6521@gmail.com. That's lej6521@gmail.com. Also, I'd like for you all to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel because I'm going to continue to bring the best information that YouTube has to offer. We are an information and news channel. We will do controversial topics, but we're going to do election coverage. We're going to do economics. We're going to talk about taxes. If you're into drama, some of this information is going to be boring. This is not the channel for you. If you leave a comment, please make it pithy, straight to the point, no bloviating. This is not the place where you get emotional. I treat everyone fairly here as I monitor my channel. I read every comment. I want everybody to know that this is not a channel where we're going to be bashing you or roasting you. The 411 Talk Zone radio show, our mission is to seek the truth. Sometimes the truth does hurt. And my motto to that is very simple. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. If the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like it, change it. Now on today's topic. Let's talk about the sheep mentality of black people. Now, I'm going to be as clear as I can. What I mean by the sheep mentality is that we have a monolithic type of thinking. Let me give you an example. Every election, most black people vote Democrat. Why do they vote Democrat? If the Democrats haven't done anything for 50 years for us, and since Obama has been in office, he hasn't done anything. Now, is it all his fault? No, because you have to get by Congress and the Senate. That's what the checks and balances system's for in government. But we have too many so-called leaders who want to stick to the old ways of thinking. They're running on civil rights, which there's always going to be racism because you have ignorance. Ignorance is a bliss. But the problem with our herd mentality is there's no diversity of thought. And without that, you can't have a community because we are utilizing the same ingredients that we always had. We have become comfortable. What I'm trying to tell you is we have to learn how to be independent in our thinking. Now, there are some who try. They get ostracized. That's more or less the envy and jealousy. And that's what keeps us on a monolithic path because we're shamed into staying monolithic. You have our leaders who make money off of victimhood. You have our politicians that only come knocking on our door when it's election time. You have our education system. They're trying to tell us one way to think. Is it black people's fault? Yes and no. Where it's not our fault is we've been indoctrinated by white supremacy. But we know this method of thinking, method of mind control comes from slavery. It's cyclical. So we have to peel off layers and layers and layers of the onion to get to the core. At the rate that everything is going today, we're never going to get to the core. Now, where's this monolithic thinking gotten us? Or where hasn't it gotten us? Well, number one, some of us need to change political parties. Because the Democratic Party, if you look in every city, it's run by black people. It's decayed, a lot of drugs. Now, yes, white people did put the drugs in our community. That's true. A lot of out-of-wedlock pregnancies. You have a lot of preachers in the churches who don't live in the hood, but they're coming to the hood acting like they know what the hood is about. And they have so many customers who are single mothers. These preachers really are pimping so they can have a lifestyle. They don't really care about you. And that's not all preachers, but that's enough of them. So we have the failure of the black church. But if you look at all these preachers, they're all telling us the same thing. Vote Democrat. Democratic Party is for you. It's okay to be a single mother, have babies out of wedlock. I'm not saying that about all churches, so I have to repeat that. But if you look at the demographics, I just explained, we have the mindset of sheeps. And why does a sheep have a shepherd? Well, sheep don't know how to turn themselves over. So it's the shepherd's job to make sure that he can turn the sheep over. And with this mindset continue, we're going to walk right into the slaughterhouse. I mean, we have no ideas. We have a high violence rate in the major cities. We have a high out-of-wedlock pregnancy rate. And what's gotten worse, family structure is broken. Because all of the mindset that we believe is white liberal policies. And that's real white supremacy. In fact, that's real racism. And let me give you all the definition of racism. Racism is a system. It's a system that incapacitates the inferior group by the superior group, or the so-called, they think they're superior group. It keeps us out of the economic, the political, and social process. In other words, racism keeps us from enjoying the lifestyle that the so-called powerful have in this country. And yes, most of the powerful are white because they're white people, and I want to tell white people this as well. The white people in power don't like you either. You're just like us, but you don't want to associate with us because you're running on your so-called benefit of being white. That's nonsense. But as black people, monolithic thinking has gotten us to be envy and jealous. It has promoted envy and jealousy. In other words, the crabs in the barrel. When one of us tries to get out because we have an idea, the rest of us who don't have ideas are busy trying to pull us down. Why? Because they want to keep everybody equally miserable. When you have an independent thought, or when you vote against the status quo, you're called a coon. You're called an Uncle Tom. That's called shaming tactics. That's to keep you thinking monolithically. In other words, if you're going to be in the black community today, you have to walk, stop, and barrel with the white liberal policies, because that's what it is. Too many of us today have the so-called welfare state attitude. You're not going to get rich off of welfare. White liberal policies keep us on welfare so we don't promote ourselves. That's called slavery. Although slavery was outlawed in 1865. As black people, here's what we need to do. You need to forget the old leadership. Okay, this isn't 1963 anymore. This isn't, we're at the reflective pool here in I Have a Dream speech. Because if he was still living today, he would find out that there is no dream. It's worse. President Obama, through his policies, and he's being controlled. That's right. It's not Obama's fault, believe it or not. I don't agree with President Obama, but I like President Obama. He's a smart man, but it's not his fault. He has a lot of white liberals pulling his puppet strings. It's not fair. He's done the best job he could do. I didn't like that he rammed the health care bill through. But if you look at the liberal politicians, they keep us thinking government is the solution. We have to be dependent on government. And it's been ingrained in our head that we should not be ambitious. That is truly wrong. When we get education, we get indoctrinated at white supremacist colleges, particularly in the social science department. That's why a number of our black women today, when you have a conversation with them, and it's a number of them, they don't major in the STEM programs like I did, the science, technology, engineering, and math, because you can't teach socialism in STEM programs. You can teach it in the English department, the history department. This is why a number of them, when they have a conversation, they may talk intelligent, but they're not bringing anything of intelligence because it's been repeated from a book of white supremacy. This is what the schools have. Now, from a historically black college and university, you actually get better teaching about black history. White schools, it's all about money. Now, we've all been taught, well, a white school is better. We all think like that. This is why we don't know our own identity, because it was stolen from us during the slavery times. But white people want to keep us running to them for what? Our own existence. White people study us. We need to study white people. Study their system of doing things. Take some of what they're doing. Not the corruption, because we don't even know how to do that. We don't even know how to be criminals. I mean, I've said this in several of my videos. Don't be a criminal. We're not good at it because we don't know how to plan. We're loving people. That's the problem with black people. We're very loving people, but not to ourselves. White man, we're loving people. But we have to be able to think independently, come up with new ideas. Now, some of us are starting to do that on YouTube, but even when you try to do that, here come the crabs trying to pull us down. Say, no, we don't want to do that. We're going to upset master. That's the mentality that a number of black people have. And when you get out of the barrel, what I'm saying, folks, is when we walk around, it's like we have somebody watching us. And the white man is using the modern day black woman and probably some modern day black men so we can rat each other out. The white man wants to keep us in check by not allowing us to think as an individual. Let me tell you the slick thing that the white man does. I'll give you a channel called MSNBC. I don't watch it. I watch something that's slanted left at CNN. Of course, I watch Fox. What MSNBC does is, you have white liberals. Well, what they do, they get what we call a buffer Negro. Now, if there's a guy like myself who has independent thought. Or to get the buffer Negro to attack the guy with independent thought by calling that guy a coon, saying he doesn't know what he's talking about, saying he sounds like the racist, when it's this buffer Negro who sounds like the racist because he is getting his information from the racist. But he doesn't know that yet. So he is the bodyguard for the liberal who really wants to call you a nigger himself. But he doesn't want to be looked at as a racist, because remember, in order to keep the liberals in power, they need the black vote. It's politics. But you would know this if I didn't tell you. There are a lot of games that are played against us. And what I'm trying to teach you is how to alleviate the game. Some of our black leaders, when we were a threat to white supremacy, were assassinated. Well, you think about slavery. They always killed the strongest black man and black woman off so they could control the masses. See, when the masses are no longer a threat, it's easy to indoctrinate the masses. That's what's going on now. Because you have to understand, even when Obama says something, he has a lot of advisors, like Valerie Jarrett. They're telling him what to say. Is he a socialist? I don't know. I know Bernie Sanders is a socialist. But it's these white, crooked, left-wing politicians that are keeping us in chains. And they like it. Because it's comfortable for them. And when we think monolithically, we continue to have the wrong people in power, and we don't progress as well. This is why the white man wants to keep the black woman on welfare, so it divides the family. That's why in every society, if you control one aspect of it and get them to think monolithically with the indoctrination of the other part of society, then there's no threat. And that is what's wrong with black people. We're all walking in the line of the slaughterhouse. And the only thing that can turn us over is a shepherd, because we don't know how to turn ourselves over. If you look at how we are when we go to work, the reason why there's the game of kissing ass at work is if you speak out against the white man, or if you speak out even against another black person, because this is what happens when you get into the, again, crabs in a barrel mindset. Thinking, again, monolithically. You have the disrespect coming from a black supervisor to a black employee and back. Because we're all supposed to be on the same level. That's monolithic thinking. There is no society that's going to survive when everybody equally miserable, unless you live in Cuba and you look at the way they are surviving. In fact, Cuba, Russia, and even the USSR, they're slowly moving away from communism. I think China and Russia are. Cuba still has a long way to go. Black people, particularly today's black people, your leaders are monolithic thinkers. They've been indoctrinated more than you have. We have a better education. Not that we don't acknowledge that some of these leaders who were civil rights activists have made it easy for us. I thank them for that. But what they forgot to say is, you need to have your own thinking. You need to go forth, young man and young woman, and create a community that has a diversity of thought. Because if we don't, we're always going to depend on a white man, known as the system. That's what white supremacy does. It wants to keep us at bay, keep us fighting. And because we don't understand the system, because we weren't taught, the only thing we know when it comes to each other is violence, is dysfunction, is disrespect. You can see it when we talk to one another. But if you look at everything we've done, every place we've lived, for the most part, it's the ghetto. Everybody has a monolithic mindset, and they're happy being where they are, in poverty. And the ones who want to get out, and there are some who get out, they don't ever want to go back to poverty. And they're looked down upon by the ones who are in poverty. Call them Uncle Tom, because these are the ones who are independent thinkers. But even when you get out of poverty, you're still in poverty, because unless we own something, white supremacy is in control of our wages. You know, we may have a house, we may have a profession, but at the end of the day, we're still working for somebody. And I'm talking about those folks in Largo, Maryland, Kettering, Maryland. I'm from Maryland. I'm talking about Prince George's County, parts of Charles County like Waldorf. A lot of black people, but no black-owned businesses. So let me round up on what we need to do to get away from monolithic thinking. Number one, we need to know how to collaborate with one another and be respectful. Because you cannot have a community without collectivism. Number two, we need to have our own independent thoughts. In other words, everybody can't be voting Democrat. We have to have balance. And without balance, civilization dies. Number three, everybody can't have college degrees. This all goes by diversity. We have to have a diversified economy. In other words, we have a level of professionals and we have a level of blue-collar people, but they're respected just the same. Because each and every puzzle piece fits in the puzzle. Everybody has different talents. You have some who can be police officers, some who can go in the military. The third point, we got to educate ourselves. And the more I do YouTube videos, the more I start to know, because I read over everything before I even come on camera. That's why I'm putting it out to you all. And I didn't have any notes in front of me. I'm just winging it. But I've studied this issue very well. Do I have some slips? Of course I do. We all do. Even your professionals on television do. But I'm bringing you these solutions so we don't continue to be looked at as a joke. But we're also causing our own degradation by being violent toward one another. White supremacy, what that has also done, has caused us to be hateful with vitriol. One of the reasons why some of our black women go get weave in their hair trying to be like the European white women. Because black men also, believe it or not, as we talk about weave, black men in the early 60s had conks and ducktails in the 80s. So we used to do funny things to our hair as well. It's because white supremacy has taught us that thinking their way and only their way is best for us. It's nothing wrong with duplicating, but understand our own history that was stripped from us. It's great to be black. You gotta be proud of being black. You don't have to be a hotep But you have to know your history. That's what makes me proud of being black, because I read about where I've come from. Do I have some white in my family as being light-skinned? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I know who I am. I don't know if my last name of Jones came from England. That means the master over here, who had slaves from Africa, his last name was Jones. And so on, and so on, and so on. Being monolithic is not going to help us in any way. We need to take time to educate ourselves. And don't think you're better than somebody who doesn't have anything. And if you don't have anything, don't think you're better than somebody who has something. We have to be able to connect dots with each other. Because even black people come from different environments. And we should hear each other out as long as we're making sense. The problem with black people, and this is monolithic thinking as well, is that most of us are very emotional toward each other. Now, this is from the disintegration of the family through white supremacy. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because without the family structure, we don't understand our roles. And most of the households are headed by women. And women don't build. That's a fact. And it can't be disputed at all. It's true. You look at all the ghettos. A lot of women are looking for security. Of course they don't want to get their hands dirty. You have some, but most of them don't. That's our job as men. And when we think monolithically as men, which really doesn't exist, we can't build. Therefore, we can't provide the black woman with what she needs. And another thing I want to tell you all, let's stop thinking like white people. We're not white people. And I'm not saying white people are bad. They do things a little differently than we do. We don't have the money and the power that white people have. This is why I tell some of the sisters who got on board white supremacy, because that did start. It started this fiasco that we have now. We're never going to be white people. And I'm going to tell you, sisters, you're very beautiful with your natural hair. There's nothing wrong with wearing kinky hair. Learn to take care of your hair, take care of yourselves. Get your weight down. And me, like I told you, I like voluptuous women. You could be 200, 300, 400 pounds and have a shape. When I talk about fat, I'm talking about out of shape looking, where you have no hips or butt. You look nasty. Get rid of the tattoos. Fellas, pull your pants up. Speak well. Help another brother. What I want you all to do is look at my video. Don't look at it as if I'm bashing you, because I'm not. Because I've been there myself. I'm just giving you the truth. And that's one thing we have to learn how to do as a people, and that's also monolithic. A lot of us black people don't know how to take the truth, and we don't know how to handle criticism, and we don't mention, or we don't like to admit when we're wrong. I'm wrong sometimes. You're wrong sometimes. We can't allow our emotions to dictate us either, because that's what dictates our monolithic thinking, because we're afraid to offend somebody. Don't be afraid. And take what I'm saying seriously. I love my black people. I have daughters who are black. I try to teach them. Go out in the real world, it's not kind. But let's stop waiting for people to do something for us. Being in poverty is not the answer. Voting Democrat is not the answer. Look at all the cities run by Democrats. Gary, Indiana, Baltimore, Chicago, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, New York, Trenton, New Jersey, to name a few others. Last on the list, just learn how to utilize your common sense. And black women, you're very beautiful women. Brothers, you're very beautiful as well. We have a great race. We just have to utilize our tools a little bit better. And don't let white supremacy keep us in chains with the monolithic thinking. Remember to be independent. That'll lead you to being self-sufficient. I thank you for listening to this episode of the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show. I'm your host, Leon Jones. Remember to always be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. The sun always rises in the east and sets in the west. You should be gentle with one another. Have a good evening.